our presentation. I'll share my screen. Oh, thank you, Justin, for recording.
Am I in the Spanish room?
Yes, we have Spanish interpretation. Give me 1 second. Let me stop screen share that we can explain that process. At the very bottom, there should be a globe that has that says interpretation. Sorry. And if you click on that globe, then you'll be able to select Spanish. Lila, would you be able to, or Cynthia, would you be able to share that in Spanish? Catherine.
Let me see.
Mm-hmm.
Where should I go? As in am I in the Spanish room already? Yeah, right?
You are in the English room right now. So if people want to go into the Spanish room, then they click on the button on the bottom. There's a globe. And if they click on that globe, then they can select Spanish.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
I am now in Spanish. Yeah. Perfect.
Oh, I can still hear you. So I think you might still be in the English. Maybe
no, I says Spanish on my globe.
Could one of our interpreters say something in the Spanish room? So.
Hola, buenos días. Estamos aquí para interpretarlos en.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's in the English room. I think Catherine might be in the Spanish room, but I don't have a way to check it as well. Let's see.
I think host would have to make her interpreter if that feature's on. She has to be assigned.
Yeah, usually host is the one that does that process.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, we did that earlier, and then if the technology wasn't working. That's what's happening. Thank you. Good catch. Lila, it should work for you now.
Thank you.
I have both you and Catherine in the Spanish as Spanish interpreters in the system. Okay. Okay, great. We can get started then. Thank you so much for bearing with us. I'm going to start screen sharing. Okay. Well, there you go. I believe the correct screen should be sharing. Does everyone see the slide deck? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Justin. I'm just going to remove the RFP over here in case I need to refer to. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate you all joining us today. We are here to talk about the Caregiver Peer Supports, the Basic Need Resource Brokering RFP. I am Hannah Mohammed. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the community-based parenting supports program manager. I'm here with my colleague, Justin End. So would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm Justin Finlay. I work on a team with Hannah, and I lead the basic needs resource brokering work. I use she, her pronouns. Nice to see you all this morning.
Thank you. All right, we have a jam-packed agenda today, where this RFP is actually a very big RFP, which includes various different components. So we will go over the community-based parenting supports. We'll go over Best Start for Kids and then the different sections of this RFP. We will go over the RFP elements and then we will answer any questions anyone in their group has. Before we get started, we just wanted to just go over some Zoom tutorials. There is a bar at the top of your screen. This is what that bar looks like. You can use that bar to mute yourself, to stop your screen sharing, to use the chat to connect and answer any questions with any of us or anyone in the group. The session is being recorded and will be shared on our BSK blog. And then one other addition is that we have a globe that has interpretation because we have Spanish interpreters with us today. All right, Best Start for Kids. Best Start for Kids is a King County levy, that an initiative that's approved by voters like yourself. It is a levy that's working towards making sure babies in King County are happy, healthy, safe, and thriving. We want to see babies being born healthy. We want to see kids thriving, young people growing up to be happy, and that we have healthy, successful adults in our community. It's a very large initiative. It includes many different bodies of work, including, but not limited to, the area that we're talking about today, which is our Invest Early. It's our biggest, largest body of work in Best Start for Kids, and it's making sure that we are providing families and little ones with the best foundations and all the supports that they need. And then we have the Sustain the Gain. This is making sure that we're supporting those little ones as they continue their journey into adulthood and working with our 5 to 24 young folks. We have Community Matters. So this is making sure communities of opportunities is what that is mostly known as. And that's making sure that our communities as a whole is happy and safe, and that's doing some system development work. We have some new investments that are coming into Best Start for Kids with this new levy. That's our child care subsidy and making sure that families have access to pay for child care. Our capital project, and that's building the infrastructure that children are in. We have homeless prevention work, as well as making sure that we are able to evaluate all of the successes of Best Start for Kids through data and evaluation. All right, and this body of work sits in Invest Early, which is our prenatal to 5 team. And this, what we focus on is making sure that little ones are supported in every setting that they're in. So Adrian Lopez Romero supports our home-based services in the home setting. Lucy Dong supports children in the child care consultation setting. And Jessamine and I work with young ones when they're in the community through our community-based parenting support. We also have many other strategies that support this body of work. We have our universal developmental screening. We have our infant and early mental childhood support, workforce development, innovation support, our environmental team, which is the Lead and Toxins, Help Me Grow. And these are other program managers in King County that are making sure we are integrating other components into the programs of community-based parenting support. And this is an arrow that just indicates where in this large list where this body of work that we're talking about sits. So going into community-based parenting support, we like to think of it as the who, what, and where. The who is we're supporting pregnant individuals, parents, caregivers, and children at through the age of 5. So what is providing peer-based support? So services that are reflective, but provided by individuals who reflect the communities that they're serving. And we provide these supports through a wide range of body of work. We'll be talking about basic need resource brokering today. We'll talk about caregiver classes and workshops through our parent caregiver information and supports today, our Kaleidoscope Play and Learn groups. But there's other elements that we are not talking about today, but also are supported through this investment, which is prenatal care and lactation support and birth workers professional development. And again, the where is in the community. Where are families connecting? Where are they coming together? That's in the health care clinics, community centers, our library, community-based organizations, just any environment where communities are coming together. So that's where the supports are provided. There is a lot of definitions in this RFP, and we want to make sure that we're providing an overview to help explain those. We'll start off with basic needs. Justin, would you like to provide an overview of basic needs?
Yeah, our basic needs resource brokering will be applications will be applying to get funds to do bulk sourcing of basic needs items. In the past, this has included formula, car seats, food, among other items, diapers. It's not limited to those items. That's just what has been done in the past, but define basic needs as your community defines it. And then sourcing those to organizations to provide to families. So the bulk purchasing and then providing to agencies for their families and distribution.
Thank you. And that body of work is managed and supported through Jessamine Finley. And the other two buckets is Kaleidoscope Play and Learn, which we use the Kaleidoscope Play and Learn model that's developed by CCR. It's a promising practice that brings families together to learn about early learning and healthy development while creating this very fun interactive space where individuals and community members are singing, reading, and playing together. And the last bucket in this RFP is parent caregiver information and supports. And this is making sure that families in King County and caregivers in King County have access to educational activities that encourage nurturing relationships, increasing the knowledge of child development, as well as social emotional well-being. And this can be in any group activity. It could be a support group, it can be classes, it can be workshops, just whatever structure that best works for the communities that you're serving. And then we keep talking about caregivers. Who are we referring to when we say caregivers? So caregivers are community members who provide care to children in King County, care and love to children in King County. We have an African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child, and that is who we refer to as caregivers. This can be individuals that are family members, such as mother, father, sister, brother, aunt, grandpa. It could be friends, neighbors, anyone that is loving and supporting our children. And then the other element that we refer to is the peer-based support. So this is a core component of this RFP. This RFP is seeking organizations that are working with families, that they shared a lived culture experience, they share common language. And the reason for that is because we know that by having those lived experiences, then you build trusting relationships and stronger relationships, and you're closest to knowing what the community needs. And then that helps increase some of this protective factors we talk about this RFP, just making sure that families are very well off and have the best foundation to be able to be happy, healthy, safe, and thriving. And we'll talk more about the caregivers' outcomes in just a moment. So when we're talking about what is a successful program, this RFP is seeking programs that embody these specific elements so that it centers the community's needs, that your program reflects the needs of the community, their desires, and that they reflect the strengths that the community brings. Community collaboration, there's respectful relationships with the community, you're lifting up the caregivers' voices, and that they are in the center of shaping and improving program implementation and design. And then protective factors are characteristics that individuals have that mitigate risk, but most importantly, promote positive well-being. These characters include parental resilience, social connections, knowledge of parents and child development, that families have access to concrete supports when needed, and that they have knowledge of social competence and of the child. Community building, so we want to make sure that there is an environment that is building the relationship of everyone that's in that space. There's an opportunity for co-learning and connection. That services are culturally and linguistically informed so that they're designed and adapted to meet the needs of the population that you're working with. And then there's this element of resource sharing. So we want to make sure that families have access to other resources as needed. So there's programs that are providing both internal and external resources, which can include a wide range of things. A few examples are ASQ, so Ages of Stages questionnaire, which is a screening that's used to see if families need developmental promotion support, housing assistance, and mental health support. And what does this RFP look like in practice? So in this RFP at the very bottom, at the very top, you'll see what caregiver supports look like. At the very top, there's peer-based providers, and then they're providing support to caregivers and families. Then the families are connected to services such as basic need resource brokering. They're connected to Kaleidoscope Play and Learn, which is a drop-in family supports, but they're connected to educational and group activities. And through these wide range of supports, we have some positive outcomes for families. Again, it's those lists that I mentioned earlier of caregiver resilience, social connections, child development. But ultimately, we want these supports to help influence some of those drivers for being happy, healthy, safe, and thriving. Going into now we'll shift over into the logistics of this RFP. This funding available is just a little over $5 million. The RFP has released. It was released on July 13th. It will close on August 31st, and all organizations will get a 3-year contract starting for January 1st of 2023 through December 31st of 2025. These are some key dates, and we wanted to flag a couple for you. The first being the final day to request technical assistance. We'll explain a little bit more about what that is, but it's getting assistance with writing your application and thinking through your program development. And that last day to request that support through a consultant funded by BSK, it's free, will be August 24th. The final day to submit questions. As you're working and developing your RFP, you might have some questions, and you can submit questions through the Zoom grant portal. And that final day is August 26th. The proposals is due on August 31st at 2 p.m. After we receive all those proposals, we have a group of panels that are going to come together to review those proposals. And that timeline is expected to go from September 3rd to September 20th, which means we will be in a place to notify organizations on who's been selected and who hasn't by August 31st, 2022. And then contract negotiations will start following that, which will be through November to the end of December. And then again, we expect the contracts to be implemented and the work to kick off on January 2023. Funding priorities is aligned with Best Start for Kids equity across all of our initiative, and making sure that services that are supporting low-income families, BIPOC families, so that's Black, Indigenous, people of color, immigrant and refugee families, LGBTQIA families, families with disabilities, families with foster children, families that are geographically isolated. And those will be the organizations that will prioritize. And who is this RFP for? It's for anyone with a nonprofit organization, a community-based organization, tribal or affiliation in a public government. We really encourage small nonprofit organizations to apply. We want to note that if you don't have a 501c3, you can get a fiscal sponsorship and work with an agency that has a 501c3. So we don't want that to be a barrier to applying. And here is the funding breakdown of the specific sections. We're going to start off with basic needs, and then we'll talk about the other two in just a moment.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. So we have just over $1 million for basic needs, the basic need resource brokering. That will work out to 2 to 4 programs, and depending on how many programs are selected by the review panel, it will likely be around $130,000 a year. You know, that's just some rough math. It all depends on how many people are selected, or how many organizations rather are selected for funding.
Thank you, Jessamine. And then we have Kaleidoscope Play and Learn, which is just over $1 million as well. And the maximum contract organizations can request is $40,000 annually. That will be enough to be able to run 1 or 2 groups. So organizations are more than welcome to request $20,000 to run 1 group, or $40,000 at the maximum cap, which gets them running 2 groups. Anticipated number of awards, and again, this is anticipated. It can fluctuate based on the review panel decision, is 10. Parent caregiver information and support is 2.8, just a little over 2.8 million. The maximum award for that body of work is $130,000 annually, and we anticipate working with 6 to 9 partners in that bucket. And there is multiple questions in RFP, so we're not going to review them, but we wanted to give an overview on what those sections are. All of the bodies of work are looking at organizational capacity and experience. So who are you? How does your organization align with our Best Start for Kids values of making sure that families are happy, healthy, safe, and thriving? Program goals and activities and outcome. What type of services are you providing? And just giving us some details on what that looks like and what topics are you covering? How frequently are you meeting, if that applies? Community engagement and partnership, that is very crucial. We want to make sure that organizations are continuously have community involvement and adjust programming at all stages. So it's not the very beginning where you get community input and run a program out, but that's really thoughtfully implemented throughout the program. So that assesses on how connected are you to your community, what systems and structures of soliciting community input do you have, and how do you adjust based on what the community tells you. And then there is one section that only applies to the PCIS partners, our parent caregiver information and support. Those are the partners that are applying to do education group activities throughout King County. And those questions assess who on your team is going to be participating in that innovation support and what capacity does the organization have to engage in innovation and capacity building. I'll go over that section in just a moment. And then some additional context to note is that we have a very large character limit, 65,000. And by any means, we don't encourage everyone to apply to use all of that, but it's however you need to be able to communicate your partner. Communicate your program with us. If that is, you're able to do it in 2 sentences, great. If you're able to do it in 65 characters, that's great. It's just we don't want to restrict anyone in being able to communicate in whichever manner that's best for them. But we also don't want people to get overwhelmed by that very large character limit. There are some required attachments that your application needs or will be incomplete. Is the budget long form. So that provides us details on how you're going to spend down the funds if you were awarded. And then the acceptance of terms. This is a King County grant, and there's loads of different terms that you have to agree to be a partner with us. So please take the time to review that thoroughly and just acknowledge that you have accepted it. And ultimately, that is the question section. Go into in depth, and then again, if you have any, I'll say if you have any questions, we are not the contact or the program managers, but Phil Thompson is our contact person, and I have a slide at the very end of his email that includes his email. Okay.
Hannah, before we move on to Zoom grants, there was a question in the chat.
Thank you.
Can you define? Sorry, can you define a bit more peer-based providers? Yes.
So I will say peer-based providers are individuals that really are what we want to see when we're talking about peer-based providers is individuals that reflect their population in whatever setting that is. That can be that you share the same culture, you share the same language, you share the same lived experience. It's just individuals who can be able to build deep connections and trust with community based on the fact that you represent that community. Does that provide enough clarification, Marina, or do you have any additional context on that?
No, thanks. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And Justin, thank you for catching that. I was not paying attention to the chat. Is Phil Thompson still the RFP lead? Yes, Phil Thompson is. And it looks like that's the only ones we have at the moment. And next we'll talk about Zoom grants.
Yeah, Zoom grants. If you're not familiar, King County uses a program called Zoom grants to do RFP applications. And I was going to walk through just a little, actually, Hannah, I'm going to share my screen because I logged in so people can see the view, the whole view.
That would make sense. Thank you.
No, I appreciate the screenshot. Okay, But just, we won't go into it in detail, but this is just what it'll look like when you log into Zoom Grants. You'll have this is all just my test information, so don't worry, my phone number is at 1234567. And you can put in your organization's information, include other people who will be working on the application, and then start with your questions, which are fairly standard for a lot of them. There will be a point where it will deviate because this application includes 3 different programs, the Basic Needs, KPL, and PCIS. Some of you may be applying for more than one bucket of funding. If you're doing a KPL program and a PCIS program, you'll have the opportunity to click that down here, which will change the questions that you get. So if you're just applying for basic needs, easy, just click that. If you're doing, you can tell if you're doing them together, and that will change your questions that pop up down here. Some tips for Zoom Grants: it can be a little sticky at times. I wouldn't leave it till 1 p.m. on August 31st to enter things, in the event that when there's a lot of traffic on the site, it can get considerably slower. So that's just something we've learned from experience with Zoom Grants. We've provided if you go up into the library here, we provided loads of documents, one of them being a Word version of the RFP questions. That's this Amendment E that you can download and then work on it offline, and just fill it in the Word document. I highly recommend that, because working, as I said, in this program, it can be a little sticky. It might be a little frustrating. It'd be nice to just have your copy and paste from your Word. Just lessons learned by those of us who have had to do it before. And then if there's anything you want to upload, you can do that here, which is where you'll put the 2 required documents, the acceptance of terms and the long form budget that Hannah mentioned. And beyond that, yeah, just to reiterate, give yourself lots of time as you fill in items or change items. Then you'll get that save screen. Sometimes that takes longer than others, but make sure you get that save screen. And I recommend after submitting, just reload your browser to make sure that it's submitted. We don't want anyone to go through all the trouble and then have, for whatever reason, it not go all the way through, which we don't expect, but I'm just trying to be cautious for everyone. And if you have any questions, please ask our lovely colleague, Phil. He'll be able to answer them for you. But that's just some hot tips on Zoom Grants.
Thanks, Justin. Looks like the question's coming in. Oh, yep. So it's because we have a platform that uses a 5 to 24. So this RFP is focused on 5 and younger. It's not 5 and older. So please make sure that your program is designed and focused on supporting the young ones. Okay. I will go ahead and screen share. Jessica, can you tell me if the correct screen is sharing? Do you see the slide deck?
Yes, I see the Zoom Grant slide. We did have a couple
Perfect.
other questions, I think, that came in while I was
thank you.
talking. So my program's largest population that we serve is in King County. However, our services are throughout the Puget Sound region. Are we eligible to apply? And the answer is yes. For your King County services, we can fund those. Oh, and sorry, if I go back further, question regarding peer-based providers. How does this work for some of the examples, like healing from trauma?
What do you mean? I'm not sure if I understood that.
Oh, Marjorie, do you want to come off mute and let us know a little bit more?
Sure. So I think my question is that some of the examples of different kinds of PCIS, like the example of healing from past trauma, would require extensive amounts of training. And so how does that work if you're using peer support? Like, what is the vision of that?
Yes. So it would be if individuals need like intensive support, like therapeutic services, then you would refer out. This body of work is not designed to be able to provide in-depth services in that sense. It's like peer-based supports is more of a support group that unpacks the trauma that's happening and be able to connect with other individuals that may be facing similar experiences. And if someone in that group is really struggling and needs additional supports, then maybe we'll refer them out to novels or another area that's culturally appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that question. I think I might have seen one more. Nope.
I think there's one more about the number of KPL awards.
Yes. Currently it's 20, the RFP anticipates 10, currently number is 23. Can you share more about why the number? Oh, it isn't a much, we're supporting 20 groups. It's that we had lumped them into the option of organizations applying for more than one. So we anticipate 10 if all organizations apply to run 2 groups.
Okay, and there's 2 questions about basic needs. If you want to upload letters of support from community partners, that is welcome. You won't be scored on it, but additional context is always helpful for the panel, but it won't be part of the scoring, and it's certainly not required. But there is a upload section for things like that. And then for the basic needs application, is there an expectation that everyone? Oh, the expectation is that they will be providing to community-based organizations, providing the basic needs to community-based organizations for the families that they are serving, and working with the community-based organizations to define what would be most useful for those families.
And in terms of the question about the full terms, it should be at the very bottom of the RFP. Quickly glancing on what page. Okay, it starts off on page 22. Thank you, thank you. Okay, we will keep going on the slide deck, and then please keep asking questions, and then we'll create some time also at the very end. Talk more. All right. And this portion is only for the PCIS partners. So this does not apply for any organizations applying for KPL or the Basic Need Resource Brokering. So PCIS partners will have some support through Best Start for Kids, General Bucket, our capacity builders and providers. We also have some direct capacity building supports that we invest in, data capacity building and organizational development. And then we also have innovation support. So there's tons of support to help organizations as needed. Today, I'll talk about the PCIS supports through innovation supports. It's a 6-month, they'll have, organizations are starting off new. We'll have a 6-month startup period for newly funded programs to work on program design and development. They will also receive ongoing capacity building support through our innovation support team. And this is a period where organizations will work with consultants to access training and workshop, tools and resources, co-design their support, and really just take the time to think through the implementation of their program and all the core components that they'll need to launch, including a practice profile, a budget, thinking through implementation plan. So all of those aspects of it, you'll have organizations that are starting a new program will not be expected to dive into the program immediately, but get 6 months to think through all the core components. For the newly funded programs, there'll be a design and development series that will develop all kinds of core program components, that theory of change, a practice profile, evaluation plan, implementing materials, and then that will start between the January to June 23rd. And then we'll have some early implementation and ongoing support to attend regular convenings, review and revise your documents as needed. And that will go through 2 years. The participation is, it requires organizations to attend 5 half-day workshops, work with individual consultants on the per monthly time period. So it is a pretty large commitment and takes some time, which is why we ask some questions around who do you have that's going to be able to work on this and what capacity does the organization have to participate in that component. So that's where those questions are structured. I do have Hannah Locke with us today at the very end, who'll be able to talk about how to best support these programs and what the support looks like. And then optional for returning programs, so these are organizations who are already currently funded through the PCIS bucket. They have already spent that time previously in a different iteration on developing these documents, but you're more than welcome to work with our innovation team to revise and adjust those documents and attend the shared learning spaces. Okay, and I see some chats coming in, so I'm just going to stop for just a moment. Yeah, so I know that that's not correct. All the KPL programs currently do not run one group. There are some organizations that do run more than one group. We did have, we had this CBS portfolio as a whole was launched 2 years after the date of launching. So all contracts did not start in the period of the levy. So there's a 2 years of underspend, and which we repurposed to be able to help support other bodies of work, including KPL, basic needs, PCIS. So those, what we're doing right now is right sizing our budget to be able to allow us to spend 6 years of funding in a 6 years course. And that is a struggle that many of the other strategies are also running into. Yeah, as you can imagine, when you're starting off a new levy, you want to kick it off immediately, but it's all the roads don't align. If we want to start a new program, it's kind of hard to come up with exact percentage of people served in different communities. This might be changed over the 3 years. Can you? Yep, we just want to see an estimate of what you anticipate serving on a different populations. As they need to be shifted, we will talk about that if your agency is selected in the contract negotiation element when we're going more into details. What this request for proposal is helps us understand who are you going to serve. So we just need to get a broad understanding of your program. You were previously signed a program and you were awarded? No, it does not, Tanya. Thank you. It is through December 2025 for everyone. Yes, January 2020 through December 2025 is the contract period. Well, I would say it depends. It's if you are, let's say, if you're already, let's use by KPL. If you're actually maybe I might need to know what program you have in mind. I'm looking at the question on, is your program considered new if it's funded by a different BSK funding strategy previously? Ali, would you be able to tell us which program you're thinking of or type of program you're thinking of?
Yes, sorry. It wasn't PCIS funding. It is a peer support program that we got in the last BSK cycle. I'm pretty sure it was under the Help Me Grow strategy, but just not under the same BSK strategy.
Well, that's when we can connect with the PMs and learn more about what components have been covered already, and then we can coordinate with Hannah Locke to better determine that. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Well, that 6 month period is just really be able to support programs and being able to get ready to launch. So if you've already completed some of those programs, then we might be able to adjust, but I can't speak on that. Maybe Hannah Locke might be able to provide better guidance. Hannah, does that sound good to you? Or is there anything you want to add to that? Oh, yeah, case by case. Yep, thank you. Yes, we'll determine we'll review. And that's again, things that we will talk more in depth in the contract negotiation phases of being able to determine how to best proceed with each individual organization. Thank you. That the space is cut out on the name, but the question, caregiver, I think 6 to 9, what kid programs include? If you could give examples. Can you explain more what the question is, just so I can make sure I respond accurately? Is it? We could also come back and maybe, Justin, do you think you know what the ask is? No, okay. Just want to make sure I'm not just missing it.
No, I'm not sure what's meant by the question, but if and forgive me, Sanethi at Yahoo, could you come off mute if you're still here? I want to make sure we answer your question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hi. I just like I am a childcare provider. I'm just wondering the program you guys I see that 6 to 9. If you can explain that, what is it included to like the program? Like example, or if you do this, and then you're gonna get this requirement.
Which program are you interested in applying for? Is it the Play and Learn group?
I am a childcare provider. I
Okay.
joined the caregiver.
Are you going to be holding a group outside in the community? Like at a local community center?
I am a childcare product. Is not included. We're not qualified for that?
No, it's more of like nonprofit organizations that are going to be doing some community-based support in the community.
Okay, then I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Justin, do you have anything to add to that? Or? Okay, I thought you were raising.
I was just saying thank you with the wave. Sorry, it looked like I was raising my hand. Apologies.
Thank you. Okay, I'm glad we asked that because that was different question than I thought maybe it was. All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your patience for bearing with us today. Okay. All right. Well, more components.
I have a question.
Oh, of course. Hi, Shannon. How's it going?
Hi, good. So I think my question is around, so are you anticipating, because I'm thinking currently BSK funds more than 10 programs. So are you thinking like there will be programs cut for this round of funding?
We do fund more. It would be 20 groups total, and we do currently fund more than 20 groups. So it would be less groups of an investment than we previously had.
Okay. Thank you.
Another one came in. Is virtual peer-to-peer supports an option, or does this services have to be provided in a community setting? So currently with COVID, people are providing virtual settings, but we do want the services to be designed and planned for the community-based environment. And of course, with the pandemic, we are making exceptions, but that's the heart of this body of work. That's where the magic happens, is when all of the community members can come together and connect. Okay. Well, other aspects of this RFP is that organizations should anticipate and plan for that we will be evaluating this work, and we'll be partnering with our evaluation team. So you'll work with our evaluation team to develop a plan, to collect data from the families that you're serving, to analyze and report that data back to BSK twice a year. So there's reporting is due 2 times a year at January and in July. And then reviewing program data and using it to inform your program. So we definitely want to make sure that there's a culture of reviewing all the feedback that you're getting back from your partners and the families that you're working with, and then using that to help shape your program. Other elements of this RFP is to review section 5, part A, which talks about the review panel. That section will go over and explain how the criteria for each one. So we have the questions, and then we also have the criteria. So that way, when you're planning your program, you can think through what are the components. And actually, I just want to make sure if that's the correct section I referred you to. Just 1 moment. We are. Yeah, okay, yep, that is correct. It starts on page 13 on the RFP. So that's where you can look at the questions, but also know the team, that's the review panel group that's coming together and selecting partners, what they will be looking at. And then all proposals will go through a formal review process. And then there is a process in case your organization is not selected, a process on knowing how to appeal and go through the formal channels if needed. Okay. A couple of application tips is, again, we'll just remind you to go ahead and fill out that acceptance form and upload your budget. There is that Zoom grant draft that of the questions, so you can work on that to be able to revise and edit as needed. There is loads of great resources and links into the Zoom grant library, so please look through those resources to learn better about what these different bodies of work are.
Real quick, Hannah.
Oh, yeah,
just an edit. I didn't catch it, but it's attachment E is the word version of the RFP.
Thank you.
So that's our typo.
Yes, I will update that to make sure the slide deck that people have is accurate. Thank you. And the budget, there's a budget. You will need to plan out for 3 years of budgeting. If you are partnering with another organization and it's a collaborative approach, then make sure that there is more than one budget, so we know that what portion is going to your organization, what portion is going to the other partner, and then how is that spending going to be? What's the breakdown of that spending? On your budget, you can budget in hourly for your staff time. You can do FTE. It really just depends on what structure works best for your team. And then the budget is attached. I think it might not be E, since the other one is E. It's the B.
It's C.
C.
Sorry, I should have caught that.
No, we share slides with our other team members. So it's some other RFP. Those were the letters. We'll update those. Okay, and again, earlier I had mentioned there's technical assistance. So these are providers that BSK works, consultants that BSK works with. It's free services, so BSK pays for these services, and they're really our goal is to make sure that organizations that are considering applying have all the supports that they need. So these providers will be able to work with you to think through your program. What type of program are you interested in applying for? They'll understand the RFP well enough to be able to say, I think this is a good fit. It might not be a best fit. Maybe this will be much more appropriate for home-based services, and that RFP comes out in January. So that's to be able to determine, and you can chat with them on that element. You can connect with them and get some guidance on how to respond to the questions. They also help you support your application. I think through some components, but they're not grant writers, so they won't be able to write your application for you. Yes, technical assistance is open now. I would say request technical assistance the sooner the better, because after June 24th, we are not there. You can't request assistance at that point. So please, August 24th, sorry, not June. So please request them. And they're a really great group. There's if you go into our BSK blog, and I believe it's the link is also in the RFP to be able to get to know who the different consultants are, and you can request to work with a specific consultant if they are available. Can you explain about the parent, caregiver, and information supports? If the child is not eligible, can individual parents apply for the grant? So the grant is for community-based organizations. So if an organization, if a individual parent is developing an organization and connecting with a 501c, a fiscal sponsor that's able to do, that has a 501c status, then they will be able to apply for the program. And it's not that childcare providers are not able to apply. It's just in that it's not designed for home-based services or in the childcare setting. So if the provider is working with another organization that has a 501c3 and they're developing a community-based program that provides peer-based support, then they can apply. Yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you. Yes. So it's going back to who are you serving, what are you providing, and where is it at? So we want to make sure that you're providing one of the 3 bodies of work that's listed, the community-based parenting, the basic need resource brokering, Kaleidoscope Play Learn, or the parent caregiver information to support. The where, is it in the community? Is it peer-based support services? And then what population? So pregnant individuals, little ones through the age of 5. And again, even though you don't have to be fiscal, you don't have to have a 501c3, you still do need to work with an organization that has that to be able to, for us to be able to move the money to organizations. Okay, and additional resources. So Georgie is our capacity builder, program manager, and TA program manager. She's the individual that you will contact if you want TA support. So that's Georgie's email if you have questions about TA support. Again, as Jessamine and I mentioned, in this space, we can answer all the questions you have, but outside of this space, if you email us, we won't be able to respond to you, unfortunately. So that's not unfortunate, it's just to make sure that the whole process is equitable and that there is some checks and balances in place. So please contact our RFP lead, Phil Thompson, and he will be your go-to to getting questions answered. And I will share, we'll share a couple more resources. Here's some things that you can take a look at to learn more about this body of work. This is our annual report. This is the implementation plan. I believe CBPS body of work is covered on page 40. This is the RFP announcement. So here's the link to the specific RFP. This is our Kpl blog that took place in 2021. We had a basic needs blog in 2022. If you want to learn more about the Kpl model itself, please look at the developers of the model, Childcare Resources. And here's the link to their website, and here's the link to their YouTube page. I'm going to stop screen sharing. Will the PowerPoint be shared with attendees? I assume yes. We will definitely make sure you have the PowerPoint and the recordings. We also share the recordings as well.
They'll both go out on the blog, on the BSK blog, so you can look for it there.
Yes, yes, thank you. Please take a look at our BSK blog. So now we'll just have an opportunity to just ask any questions, and then in a moment, we'll break out into breakout rooms for those interested. There'll be a room with our childcare resources, the model of Kpl, to ask any questions around that. And then there'll be a room for Hannah Locke, our innovation support, to learn more about the innovation support.
I guess I have a quick question. It's better to ask in person. So the innovation support, is that intended just for new programs that are starting? Because we are thinking about, you know, not a new program, but doing our program with certain communities. So it is already developed. There's a model, there is some stuff in place. And we are not, there's a theory of change in place and things like that. It's not new per se.
Yes, so it's any newly funded Best Start for Kids partners. So it's for that PCS body of work, again, it doesn't apply for Kaleidoscope Play Learn and Basic Need Resource Brokering. But if you are planning on applying for the PCIS bucket of work, then you'll be connected to our Innovation Fund support. That's if you have not been previously funded in that bucket. And then again, that's where you'll be able to work with the consultants to determine which element is most relevant for your team, and that will be shaped later on.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so through this grant, you can apply to start a new KPL program. If you, or maybe if you, it can be to expand a new program to fund those that you already have running. The organization does not need to be a 501c3, but they do need to work with an organization that does have that title and be physically sponsored. I'm trying to read your question, Ali. I'm unfamiliar with these BSK funding strategies. Are all three renewing types of supports, meaning folks have been previously funded in prior grant cycles in all three types of supports? Can you tell me what your question is, Ali?
Yeah, I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
the comment earlier about the, you know, I think it was like 20 organizations or so who've been previously funded, and we're talking about, I think 9 for one of those spots. And that just made me think, if all 3 of those types, basic needs, Kaleidoscope, and parent caregiver, were all previous types in other grant cycles. And so just to know, like, if there are people who are going to be trying to, how many people are trying to renew, I guess, as someone who hasn't been funded in those grant categories before.
Yes, so with the KPL, I'll just say we put 10 as anticipated because we're assuming all 40. All organizations will apply for 2 groups, but it could be, if let's say all organizations only apply for 1, it could be up to 20. It just depends on the structure of how people apply and how people are awarded. Are you applying to? The other groups, their structure is will be roughly the same. It won't be well, Jessamine, I believe you're for basic needs is currently there's 3 partners. You're anticipating 2 and 4. And then with PCIS currently there's 8 partners. We're anticipating 6 to 9. Does that answer your question, Ali?
Yeah, so it sounds like all 3 of them have had grantees.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Now I got it. Yes. These are all strategies that are currently funded.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. The organizations currently funded have been operating for 3+ years now.
So Hannah, follow up to that question is, are the PCIS grantees same as also offer KPL?
There's only one organization currently funded through both buckets, but the reason we put them together in this very long RFP is organizations are more than welcome to apply for more than one. And then by having it in one application, it saves partners from applying multiple times.
Okay. And then the next thing is, so I heard you say 40,000 if you want to do 2 groups, and you can apply for 20 if you want to do 1 group. So what's the max for the PCIS program again? Is it the same thing?
Yeah. 130,000 is the maximum for PCIS.
Okay. So organizations could apply for one or the other or both. Okay.
Yeah, organizations can apply for all three. It's one or more. An organization can say, I want to do a basic needs program, and I also want to do a kaleidoscope play and learn program. Or I can want to do a Kpl program, and I want to do a basic PCIS program. So it's however many times you want to apply, then you're more than welcome.
Okay. And then the third question is, what do organizations need to have in place in order to apply for the PCIS program? Would there be, do they already have to have something, or would there be like a training or opportunity for them to work with BSK to develop that program?
Yeah, that's where those innovation supports are very crucial. So if organizations want to start a PCIS program from scratch, then they'll be able to work with the amazing innovations team to help think through all the components to develop that program.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Thank you.
Got a couple other questions in the chat.
Oh, thank you, Jessamine.
Asking Jamie asks, we're applying for an existing program at our org that is not currently funded, but our organization has other programs with BSK funding. Would the new application qualify as a new program? And it would, I believe, right, Hannah?
Yep. If you have not been previously funded by PCIS, so that's the org that we're talking with the innovation supports, then you'll be considered new.
And then a follow-up, is there a place where we can see who is currently funded through PCIS?
Yes, it's actually in the blog. The blog has all of our awards. So if you do like PCIS awards, you'll be able to see who originally received those awards. Yeah, our blog has, every time we have an RFP announcement, it's posted. I also want to pause and see if there's any other questions. I'm also sharing a link to our blog. We've referred to it multiple times and want to make sure it's accessible for people. So there you go. It's our communication platform. So anything you want to know that's happening with BSK, that's the place to follow.
Did we miss any of the questions in the chat? I know we were monitoring it, but I want to recognize that we may have missed something while talking. Someone can float that to the top if it happened.
Well, if any questions come up, then you will be able to connect with Phil Thompson, who's our RFP lead. What I'll do is if people are not interested in participating in the breakout rooms, then you're more than welcome to leave, and then I'll just wait for who's left, and then we'll figure out how to arrange that in just a moment. Thank you, Jessica. Just posted a link to the RFP. Yes, there are annual grant requirements. Sorry, there's one question before we wrap up. There are annual grant requirements. It's quarterly requirements. I don't think they might be listed in the RFP on some of them, but we mentioned the annual report, the semi-annual report. There's also monthly reports that we have of how much services did you do and how many people did you serve. And then lastly, we have our quarterly calls with partners and convenings. We have monthly deliverables, we have quarterly deliverables, and we have semi-annual deliverables. Yes, so there's 2 breakout rooms. One breakout room will be individuals that want to learn more about Kaleidoscope Play and Learn, and they get to connect with our model developers at Child Care Resources. And the other room is for individuals who want to learn more about innovation fund support. So that applies only for PCIS partners. So people who are new or want to learn more about that support and are applying for PCIS will be in that room.
Hannah, maybe we can do a third room that I can just go in the event people have questions about basic needs that weren't answered there, and I can just hang out for a bit.
Yes.
If anybody
Yes.
has follow-up questions, we'll do a third.
Thank you. Yes, that's thank you. In the long form budget, are there year predictions required or just the current budget, the current year? I believe there's a tab for 3 years, Jessamine, is that accurate? Yep, so it'll be a form for all 3 years.
And it's just a proposal budget. This wouldn't be final. So, you know, however you envision it, and then should you get an award, it will become more fine-tuned.
Yes, that is correct. That's where we talk more about it around the contract negotiations and continuously adjust and adapt as needed. Thank you. Any other questions before we shift around? Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate all of the interest and excitement about this RFP. We're really excited to have you all connected to this body of work and applying. The blog and the RFP video today and the PowerPoint slides will be on the blog. And if you're interested in learning more about the different bodies of work, please stay on. If not, you are more than welcome to leave. Thank you. Thank you. PCIS is a strategy. It's Parent Caregiver Information and Supports Innovation Funds is the body of work of capacity builders that's going to help support all new programs at BSK. Yep. Yes, I'll talk about how to move into the breakout rooms in just a moment. I was just waiting to see how many folks we are left with. Okay. Okay. Breakout rooms. We'll let participants choose. We'll create 3 breakout rooms. I'm gonna rename the first one as Basic Need Research Brokers. Rename this one as Kaleidoscope Play and Learn. And then rename this one as PCIS. So in a moment, we'll open up the rooms. So in the very bottom, there should be a section that says breakout rooms. And then you can join a breakout room. It'll be 3 different rooms. One will be labeled Basic Need Research Brokering. The other one will be labeled KPL. And the other one will be labeled PCIS. So whichever one that you're interested in joining, just you should be able to select and hit join. And then if someone at the very end, if there's anyone struggling, then we can manually assign as well. Breakout rooms should be open now. Thank you, everyone.